boy, Reggie. You warm? You warm? Don't blame me, mate. Hello. What a roaster it is today. I really do not want to put that oven on today. So I need to come up with an idea. I think I'll use the slow cooker today, so I'll do a slow cooked beef stew with dumplings. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Slow cooked beef stew, dumplings. So, on this boiling hot, roasting summer's day, that will not be switched on. Far too hot. We'll be using this slow cooker. We shall be doing a beef stew with homemade dumplings, and I'm going to be complementing it with some green beans. So let's get started. So for the stew, I've got some nice lean diced beef, some nice large fat carrots, the swede, some 4 large potatoes, 1 onion, got some basil, some salt, some black pepper, some Bisto gravy granules for thickening, and I'm going to be dumping in a little bit of brown sauce and a little bit of tomato ketchup. Yep, exactly, brown sauce and tomato ketchup. Beautiful, try it. So the first thing you want to do is to brown off your diced beef in a wok. Don't add any oil, just let it cook in its own oil. So put it on high. Put your diced beef in there. And just move it around so you can brown it all off. It's all got to be nice and brown, no pink left, no red showing or anything like that. And I've boiled a kettle full of water. So once this is all browned off, I'll put it into my slow cooker and I'll make 300 grams of beef stock with a stock cube, and put the beef into the slow cooker and cover it with the beef stock. So that's the first step. Okay, so let's get this browned off. Put it on high. Put your diced beef in there. Got an escapee. Okay, I'm happy with that now. So that now goes into the slow cooker, and then we make 300 millilitres of beef stock using a stock cube and cover it, and then put the lid on. And we will cook that on its own for about an hour, and then we'll have the vegetables for another 2 hours. So all in all, you're looking at about 3 hours for this to cook. So let's get this into the slow cooker. Make 300 millilitres of beef stock, and what you want to do is you want to make sure that this is covered, all the beef's covered. If you need a little bit more water, just add a bit. So I'll leave that covered now, let that cook on its own on high heat for about an hour. In the meantime, we'll prepare the vegetables. So before we start the vegetables, we need to add some basil into the beef, into the slow cooker, and I'm going to be using this parsley chopper for this. But if you haven't got one of these, just use a knife. Just keep chopping it and chopping it and chopping it and chopping it so it's very thin, very fine. So I'm just going to take out some basil. And I want a few leaves, not too much. That'll probably do. So peel the leaves off. And I want to chop this nice and finely. Okay, so like I said, if you haven't got a chopper, parsley chopper, just get a knife and just keep chopping it, chopping it, chopping it until you get it nice and thin, nice and fine. I'll just use this. Okay, I'm happy with that. So we now add this into the beef stock, into the slow cooker. with the beef, a bit of salt, a bit of black pepper, and then let that cook for an hour on its own before we add the vegetables. Right, so I've dropped in there my basil, which I've chopped up. I've added a good helping of salt and then plenty of black pepper. So we can now put the lid on that and let that cook for an hour on its own. I've set the timer on the oven for an hour. I'm not using the oven, I'm just using the timer for the oven. So it'll let me know when an hour's up. And now I'm going to start preparing the vegetables. So for the main vegetables, I've got 4 big fat carrots. I've peeled half of a swede, so that's half of a small swede, and I've got 4 large potatoes. So we're going to dice all these into decent sized chunks, probably about 2 or 3 centimetres, something like that. So we're going to start dicing these, and then I'm going to put them into a bowl of water until they're needed in about an hour's time. You can put them in pans of water if you want, whatever you want to do, but you need to keep them in some water. So let's start chopping. I'm going to start with the swede, so cut them into thick slices like that to start with. Right, so that's that. Then cut them in half like that, and then cut your chunks, so like that. Then we'll be looking at something like that, about 2 centimetre chunks. So I'll do that with the rest of them. So that's the swede, all done. Next I'm going to move on to the carrots. So for the carrots, same again, chopped up into chunks. Start by cutting it down the middle, then straight in half, and then I'm just going to cut them along there like that. So I'm going to be looking at something like that. Okay. So I'll do that with the rest of them. So that's all my carrots chopped up, so they can now go into a bowl of water until they're needed in about an hour's time, along with the swede. And next I just need to dice the potatoes. So the same with the potatoes as what we did with the swede. Cut them into thick slices. Like that, and then cut that twice into strips like that, and then just dice them. So again, you want to be looking at about something like that, about 2 or 3 centimetres, something like that, and same with the rest of them. So I'll get the rest of them done. So that's all my vegetables prepared. As you can see, there's quite a lot there. Probably won't use all of them, to be honest, because we've only got a 3 litre slow cooker. But as you can see, the water is quite murky, and that's because of the starch in the potatoes. So what I do, I give them a good rinsing off and get all that starch out so the water is nice and clear. So I'll just give them a quick rinse, well, under the tap through a colander, and then put them back in there in the water to keep until they're ready. So I've rinsed off my vegetables. As you can see, that water's a lot clearer, so that's all the starch gone. There's one more thing to do, which will be the onion. We need to peel and dice an onion, but it's a bit early for that yet, so we'll do that when we add the vegetables to the stew in about half an hour, and all the rest of the ingredients, and then just leave it to cook. Okay, so the hour is up. I've finally chopped, or not finally, sorry, roughly chopped 1 onion, which I'm going to put into the slow cooker. So let's put the onions into the slow cooker. And next, out of the vegetables that we've prepared, I'm going to take a good selection out and add them to the stock pot, and then cover the whole lot with water. Okay, so let's take out a selection of vegetables. Probably won't use them all, but I shall store the rest until I need them. So that's a colander full. So I'm going to throw them into the stock pot with everything else, and then cover it with boiling hot water. So I've got my vegetables ready. I'm just going to mix the onions and the diced beef up a little bit. And I'm going to slowly add the vegetables. That's probably too much, I'll take a bit out. You want to leave a bit of room for your dumplings on the top, so I'd say that's enough. I've boiled a kettle full of water, which I shall now cover the vegetables. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of brown sauce and 2 tablespoons of ketchup. Give that another good mix in so everything's all mixed up. Now we're going to leave this cooking for about another 2 hours. In about an hour's time I'm going to start making dumplings, and then after about an hour and a half I shall put the green beans on to boil on the cooker, and I shall be adding the dumplings into this mix and thickening it up with some Bristol granules. So that's it for now. What we shall do is to put the lid on that and let that cook for 2 hours. I'm going to set the clock. I've set the timer for 2 hours. When it gets to an hour and a half and there's 30 minutes left, I'm going to put the green beans in a pan of water and boil them in cold water. That'll take about 30 minutes. We'll be adding the dumplings, which we're going to be making soon, and also the gravy granules to thicken it up. So about an hour and a half, that's it. So we're going to start the dumplings now, and what we're going to use for the dumplings is I've got 150 grams of self-raising flour, I've got 70 grams of suet, I've got some parsley which I'm going to chop and add to it, some salt and pepper, I've got a cup with some water and a spoon, and I've also got a little bit more flour for dusting and rolling the dumplings. So let's get started making the dumplings. So let's start with the parsley. I'm just going to pick the parsley off the stems, and you want to be chopping this parsley nice and fine. You don't have to put parsley in, it's just optional, it's just nice with parsley. Really nice. So that's the parsley, so now I'm going to chop that up. Once again I'm going to be using my charred parsley chopper for this, but if you've not got one of these, just use a knife. As long as you chop it up really small, it doesn't matter what you chop it with. Okay. Okay, so that's my parsley chopped. Okay. So to make the dumplings, I'm going to sprinkle in the parsley that we chopped. Dump the suet in there and it'll be prepared. And I'm going to mix all that together with a fork. Okay, bit of really good mixing. Want a touch of salt in there. A little bit of black pepper. And give it all a really good mixing. Okay. Right, now then, you make a little well in the middle. And we add about 5 tablespoons of water. That's 5 tablespoons of water. Now give that all a really good mixing up. It becomes pliable, basically, so it holds together when you squeeze it. Just keep going. If you need to add a little bit more water, just add a little bit more. But don't forget you can add, but you can't take away. Okay, so I'm going to drop a little touch more water in there. Maybe another tablespoon to see how that goes. Okay, so it all wants to start holding together when you squeeze it. Add 1 more tablespoon of water. See how that holds together. Still quite dry, so just keep adding water if you need it. Get in there. You want it to hold together like that, but I'm just going to add 1 more tablespoon of water. and give it all a really good mixing. I'm happy with that because it's holding together, but it's not too wet. See that? Okay, so I'm now going to start shaping the dumplings. So I've got a plate here to put my dumplings on, and what I'm going to do is to start rolling them, and I want them to be, because they're going to swell, don't forget, when you cook them, so I want them to be like that, about that big. So just squeeze them like that, gently, don't squeeze them too hard, because you want a little bit of air to get through them. So about that big. So I'm going to see how many I can get out of these. So I managed to make 6 dumplings, that's 3 each for me and the missus. If you want to make more, then just make them smaller. So they can now go in the fridge until needed, which will be about half an hour left in the cooking time. Okay, so it's been cooking now for about 2.5 hours. So I just want to take the lid off and just give everything a try. I want my vegetables to be nice and tender, and I want my meat very nice and tender as well. So let's start by checking out the vegetables. And now I'm going to find a piece of beef. That piece there will do. I'm going to check that. It's going to be hot. That is so tender. So in here I've got 7 heaped teaspoons of basil granules. I'm going to add them to it to thicken it up. Give it a good mix in. Now you could just add corn flour and gravy browning if you wanted to, but I really like the taste of basil, which is why I use it. So I'll give that a good stir, and as it boils it will thicken up. And now I'm going to put in my dumplings, which I'll leave in there for about 20 minutes, and at the same time I'm going to put on the green beans on the cooker boiling. They'll take about 20 minutes. So next step, add the dumplings. So here's my dumplings that we did earlier on. I just took them out of the fridge. So I'm just going to give this another quick stir. Starting to thicken already. Beautiful, beautiful. And now I'm going to put the dumplings in. There you go, that's them in. Put the lid on that. Let that carry on cooking for 20 minutes, and while I put my green beans on, and then we shall plate up. Okay, it's coming up to 3 minutes left now. The green beans are virtually done, and we are now going to have a look at this. Just look at this. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So, about 3 more minutes I shall be dishing out and sitting down and getting stuck into this. And there you have my slow cooked beef stew with homemade dumplings and green beans. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please click on like and subscribe, and watch out for some more of my tasty meals. So now I'm going to get stuck into that, and I'll see you again.